Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to our workflow webinars. We have a really exciting one today. People are actually on site, and that's super, super awesome. Just a reminder, I'm Jen. We also have Ben and Jason. We're all part of the industry relations and market development team here at Shure. And we have 4 panelists today to talk about all that's going on in this mysterious bubble that we have in Florida now. So our industry guests include Vinny. He's an account manager for Firehouse. He's the RF coordinator for the NBA Restart. Art, give a little wave. He is doing comms and audio systems out in the compound. Cameron, who is also doing RF coordination with Vinny. I think they'll talk more about how that balance works. And then Dave, who is out in the truck doing all the magical mixing that you're going to be hearing on the air if you're watching these games. So thank you, all of you, for being here. We're excited to have this conversation. This is, obviously, I think, since the bubble became dreamed of, everybody's like, what are they doing? What is this mysterious thing? So yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, can you tell me a little bit about yourselves and what you're doing? We'll start with Vinny first.
Hello. So I am involved in the RF coordination, the advance, and the distribution of frequencies, involved in coordinating with Dave and in terms of like mic selection and mic deployment, and Cameron obviously working alongside to make sure that the day-to-day goes well.
And Cameron.
Yeah, so Vinny and I are a pair, really, that when I have an off day, Vinny is on, and when Vinny has an off day, I'm on. And so we're overseeing the RF, mostly at the arena, but then also at the Field House, which is the second venue, and when the Visa Center was open, the third venue for here in the bubble. And so these 3 venues were simultaneously running on some days where we would have 7 games a day across the 3 venues. And so that's just a bunch of production work that needs some oversight and needs some engineering. And us and the rest of the PL team, Art out in the compound, 6 other people on the inside, 3 other people with Art on the outside. Yeah, keep it moving.
All right. And Art.
I'm on the RFPL team, so we're in the yellow zone, actually. Cameron and Vinny are in the green zone. So we're an extension of basically the green people. There's 4 of us out here, and we oversee all the comms and audio part of it in the yellow zone where everybody else can't get to. So we are in charge of, so Robo camera team has panels, lighting panels, executives that are not in the green. We take care of them in the yellow, out in the compound and in the venues.
All right. And so technically you're on the same team as Vinny and Cameron, but y'all don't see each other at all, basically.
Not at all, no. So it's 2 different quarantine levels, and the green one is the more hardcore. Yellow, we have a little more freedom to roam around all the venues and the compound. So it's a lot of different things quarantine-wise. Cameron and Vinny are kind of stuck in the green zone, as yellow zone has a lot more freedom.
Right, you can see the 2 places that us in the green zone are allowed. Vinny on show site right now, and me at the hotel. And that's it.
That's it.
The green zone is very well protected and very well controlled.
I am on show site, so you will hear background noise as they're going to start their morning fax routines and things in the background.
Perfect. And Dave, what are you doing there?
Well, I am the senior mixer for Turner, and I am mixing out of the arena. So all the games that are in the primary bigger building, I'm taking care of all that. The beauty of this show, as you know, my Firehouse friends have alluded to, is typically I would have to do all the comms and put everything out, do all the RF gear. over the years, Turner and Firehouse has had a great working relationship for the past 6 or 7 years at the NBA All-Star Game, and have come up with this model of allowing Firehouse to do all the comms and all the RF for us so that we don't do it. So by doing so, we have these three gentlemen who are experts taking care of all that side, so that it allows my team to focus on other areas. And it's been a beautiful marriage working together that we've created. And in this scenario, with the whole bubble and the restrictions, everyone has a purpose, everyone has a place, and it all works.
Cool. And you mentioned, I think we were talking earlier, are you mixing all the games and you have them going multiple places? Like, what does that workflow look like for you?
The workflow now is, like Cameron mentioned, there was 3 buildings. The Visa Center has gone away, and so now we're down to just 2 buildings, the arena and the HP Pavilion. And so what's happening here is this is a shared effort between 2 networks, TNT and ESPN. But in addition to that, we are doing all the production and the coverage for all the local RSNs that are taking these games. So if you could imagine, we're doing essentially at any given moment 3 shows at one time. We're covering it for Turner, and then let's just say it's the Lakers in Portland. We are doing the production for the Laker feed and the Portland feed simultaneously. So there are a lot of nuances in terms of signal path and how many different mixes that are going. So in essence, at any given moment, I have about 8 different mixes happening simultaneously. Some are going directly to Turner over the air. Some are going to the RSNs, which are safer. And then we have things going to NBA TV and Secaucus in New Jersey. So the complexity of the signal flow is pretty amazing on this event.
Awesome. All right, let's go. I know Vinny's probably going to get busy soon, so I'm going to switch over to talk a little bit about what you have set up in the arena.
Sure.
Sure. Can you give us a little rundown of all of the wireless that you have going on?
Sure. So we've got what we have in each of the, at the time, 3 venues was 12 channels of Shure Axient Digital. And 4 channels of PSM 1000, set up with ShowLink full connectivity. So we've got PSM 1000s that we're using for IFBs, and then the Axient packs that we have set up for the refs. We had an assortment of push-to-talk switches enabled for them. Ultimately, we've settled on a manual toggle. And we've got stick mics for courtside interviews with push-to-talk switches and mic flag extenders as well. So looks a little something like this guy right here. You can see push-to-talk enabled and the extension for the flag, so you can just see a relative size. It's a fairly large handheld, but when you get it in the hand of a player, it looks pretty normal at that point. I can take anybody through the sort of process. If you guys want to give me the ability to do a little screen share, I can dig into that quickly. Okay, so we started with a process where I sent out a form where everyone would register their gear. And then once all the gear was registered, we translate that into coordination, generally using IAS. And you can see the spectrum is not super tight, but we're packing a lot in there. We're up to, this is when Major League Soccer was right out the back door. We had 108 frequencies on the air daily. And then we're managing everything. You can see here, this is actually on in real time. My my wireless workbench. So primarily these two here, these would be the two IFBs for courtside reporters, two stick mics, both are turned off, and then two ref mics here. And these are both on right now and transmitting. You can see I got the monitor open so we can see that traffic at all times. And that's the basic overview of what of how the system functions. And we duplicate that across all three venues. And I actually, because of how many channels of wireless we had to put on the air, I've given it, every single venue is actually using the same frequencies. They're separated far enough so that we were able to get away with that. And yeah, that's the basic workflow. We've got A2s that are from both Turner and Espin, handing off mics to refs. And the refs are actually miking themselves. No one gets close enough to actually dress a mic. We hand them off to them in a green plastic bag, and they return it to us in a red plastic bag, and then we sanitize. There's a UV locker that you can see there. Get it in there for about 20 minutes and sanitizes it, and then it's ready to go again.
Cool. So one thing I wanted to have you talk through, I think for a lot of folks, what a push to talk switch does and why you would use it is probably a new thing for them. So I think you had some routing configured, but if you could go through how why do you need a push to talk button?
Sure.
What is that being used for?
Can you still see my screen share?
Yep.
Okay, so if I bring up the properties here of the mic, you can see the talk switch is routed. So when the interview is happening, normally they're talking and going on the air. That is a courtside reporter, and then they're listening in their ear to an IFB, to their producer talking to them. If they need to talk back to their producer, they can press the button. That routes audio out the TRS output of the same receiver channel, and then that goes down a different split channel out to the truck so that they can talk back. And thereby you get two audio paths out of the same receiver channel and same transmitter. These push to talks that we're using require the show link, and the show link sends the data telemetry back to the receiver and moves the relay so that the audio path transfers from the XLR to the TRS.
Cool. And Dave, you're getting both of those feeds then?
Yes.
How does that look on your side? So you're waiting to hear from the reporters?
So typically at some point prior to the game, one of my A2s will hand off the microphone to our reporter, and they'll put the PSM in, and they will converse back and forth with the producer prior to the game, and that's typically on the keyed talkback switch at first. And then once we get into a rehearsal, their mic will be open, and the play-by-play and color commentator they'll all be conversing, figuring out how we come on the air. But once we go on the air, that keyed push to talk is how that reporter, like Vinny said, would communicate back to the truck. So if they saw something, a possible injury, or they wanted to add to a story, they could hit that push to talk, tell the producer I can add to it, and then the announcers would, throw to them, and I would open the primary path at that point. And we have two systems in play that we can do a multiple of things. That typically what we use the second one for is, because of social distancing, we are doing interviews with that second RF transmitter on a boom pole with a player. Now we're using the normal coach mic. We do interviews with the coach, and so the sideline reporter distances himself from the coach, and we'll use the RF coach lav and the Axion Digital handheld for interview at the end of the first quarter, end of the third quarter. So that's kind of the basic overview of how we're using the handheld and the RF transmitters on the refs.
Cool. Vinny, do you still have the handheld with the push-to-talk switch?
I do,
We
in
had a
fact.
question come in asking where that talk switch is actually located. So can you point that out?
Sure. If I take the mic flag off, you can actually see the talk switch right here. And it also has a battery compartment where you use a little that's what it uses. You can see also the flag extender, so you can really see without the flag on it. This is extended, you know, a good 3 inches between the push to talk and the flag extender.
Thank you. The other question that came in for y'all is if that the UV locker, is that something that's custom? Like what's the situation with that?
So it's something that MT Cases that we've sort of worked with them a little bit to R&D. They had a prototype model available, and when we came down here to the bubble, we reached out to them through Art, and we said, yeah, we'd like to give it a try. So we got 4 of them down here, and we're using those to sterilize at the end of each day all of our wireless belt packs, microphones, IFBs. Put it in there, set the timer, comes out sterile.
Cool. Let's see. We had a couple questions that came in for Dave. Wynn asks, can someone explain what an RSN is and why is it safer?
The RSN stands for Regional Sports Network. So the local non-network broadcaster. So like I said, you have to look at these shows essentially as 3 ways. TNT is the primary network. And then, like I said, if we're doing a Laker game, it'll go to LA on whatever channel is airing the Lakers and whoever the visit team is. So it's just the regional broadcaster of the teams that we're covering that day. And then when we say safe, what we've done is the league wanted to protect the players and also fans in terms of profanity and language. So we have, in addition to my network audio, we have a safe program and a safe effects that essentially has no live microphones. And what we've done is deployed 40 contact microphones on the floor, the rims and the backboard. And so they sense vibration, not live audio. And the beauty of the contact microphones is energy transfers better through a solid than through air. So that's how we're able to pick up all the squeaks and the ball bounce through the contact mics. But if someone were to jump up and scream of profanity, you wouldn't hear it because it's safe. It's a little bit different than what people are used to, but once you add the ambient, the sweetening, the music, the DJ, it's believable. And so we have just called that safe effects and safe program that goes out to the regional sports networks.
All right. Along that lines, Douglas asks, are you feeding to any international broadcasters? And are there specific technical requirements that you must meet?
There's a lot going, and that's all done through Secaucus. And some of the feeds are being distributed through our IBC here, which is the NBA's distribution. It goes back to New Jersey, and then from New Jersey, it gets shipped to whatever country is taking it. And I don't know how many, but I know there are quite a few international feeds leaving Secaucus.
All right, a follow-up question on the profanity. It's interesting you're not using a profanity delay as used in the radio industry. Is there a specific reason for that?
But we are using a delay on the network side. Oh, absolutely. We have a 7-second delay. Both ESPN has one and Turner. And I understand that some of the regionals actually are using delays as well. So then we've created a less safe mix, if you will, for some of the regionals who have delays in place, but that's on a game by game basis. And then we also have a safer path, just an ambient mix that only has some very high ambient mics up in the trusses above the quartz. So it's, if you did hear something, it would be very muted. So there's multiple levels of security, if you will, in terms of the audio. But there's most definitely delays on the network paths and some of the RSNs.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about Art's life out in the compound a little bit, because you have a pretty unique setup and that you were telling us about. Can you run us through how what exactly your setup is and how you're getting gear out and all of that?
So we got 3 different positions here in the compound. One engineer is today it's Erin. She's monitoring all the Riedel between the trucks and the venues. Second one is the Bolero trailer, which I'm in right now. And we have a window set up, the drive-through window we call it, where all the network A2s come in. Instead of walking into our trailer, we're trying to social distance and keep everything safe. So we have a doorbell. They ring it. We open the window. We check out Bolero packs to each individual. So everybody's assigned a headset and a pack individually to each person. So nobody cross-contaminates it. When they do come back, we sanitize it just like Vinny was talking about with the MT locker, the UV locker. And then we also have wipes that we use to sanitize everything. And so for the next day, everything's clean. The third position is an engineer roaming around all the venues. So making sure everybody in the yellow zone is good to go. So the big thing is cleaning everything at the end of the day. So there's a lot of work there for one person. We roam around now we have 2 venues, but originally we had 3. So we have to clean all the Riedel panels, headsets. Once sanitized, we put them in a plastic bag for the person to have the next day. Each operator has their own headset, so nobody shares headsets. So each position can have 2 ops during the day, or let's say it's Espen today, Turner tomorrow. We have 2 separate headsets for one panel.
It's worth noting too. Many of the headsets are the Shure single muff headsets, and they've stood up well to all the cleaning and wiping.
Yeah.
In fact, in the field house, it's probably 65 Shure single muff headsets in there, and they've never been so clean. So.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the 3 positions out of the 4 people we have out in the yellow. So and one person gets a day off today. It's Sean King. So we got a pretty good system going on in the yellow zone.
Nice. All right. So let's back it up to getting inside the bubble, because I know we talked a little bit about like how the whole quarantine went and how the setup went. So it's been actually like a pretty long period of time to get the bubble established. So I know you all have some opinions on how that went. So we'd like to hear more about like just getting the bubble off the ground.
Oof, where to begin? Yeah, so there's, I mean, the biggest thing is that there's just several moving parts, and there are hundreds of people that are all moving at different schedules that had to sync up at one time and get everybody together and individually isolated so that you could find out, is somebody COVID-19 positive, and then do we pull them out now? Was this a false positive test? Because everybody that came into the bubble, which is what we're calling the green zone, is, even though Art is down here with us, he's technically on the outside of the bubble, even though he's inside the security compound. That sort of makes sense. There's two perimeters. There's the medical perimeter inside the security perimeter. So everything starts as a normal show when we all showed up in early July, where everything comes inside the security perimeter, but we're not past the point of isolation that guarantees nobody has COVID-19. So it's a very slow load-in process. It's a very delicate, very specific movement. You guys are going to work together as a pod of workers today. You know, everybody's washing their hands hourly. Hand sanitizer bottles are everywhere. Masks galore. But then once you get to the end of load-in, the players are starting to arrive in their hotels. The broadcast teams are starting to arrive in their hotels, media, etc. And then we all went into a week of in-room isolation. Knock on your door, your meal is delivered, can't go anywhere. And then after that week, that's when we can no longer see Art, even though we're no more than maybe 200 yards away from him on a standard day. He is essentially on another gig. And we're talking to him across PL as if we were to talk from a normal arena back to, you know, as David said, NBA into caucus or MLB into caucus, ESPN in Connecticut, et cetera. So it's a hard line of a medical perimeter inside a security perimeter that required to have two different teams to operate at all times. Dave has, Turner has A2s in the green zone on the inside and in the yellow zone on the outside of the bubble.
So Dave, are you technically in yellow zone? So there's green zone, yellow zone.
And red zone, there's three. Okay. I mean, red zone is typically compound only. Yellow is compound and you can go in the building, but you can't go to the floor to green.
Right, the 200 level is yellow of the buildings.
Yeah, so essentially, I can go in the building and go to, say, my announce position, which is behind plexiglass that is up, raised above. That would be, like Cameron said, the 200 level, if you will, but it's, you know, 20 rows up from the floor, and the broadcast booths are individually lined with plexiglass. So it's a little cubicle that each announcer sits in, and in the arena, ESPN has 4 cubicles and Turner has 4 cubicles, and they're side by side. We're never broadcasting at the same time. It's either a Turner production or an ESPN production, but that's the closest I can get to the floor is that level. And that's where, like Cameron said, that perimeter is dividing the green to yellow within that building.
Yep. And to that end, the refs in the green zone, we had to devise a unique audio routing system, because formerly the refs would be able to just, on their way past the scorer's table, shout to the statisticians that was a 3, or no, that wasn't, or it was a foul. Now the scorer's table is completely enclosed in plexiglass. And so each of the referees are now outfitted with an 81 and a toggle switch. And when they throw this switch on, then their audio goes hot to the scorer's table, and they can say to the statisticians and the official scorer, okay, yeah, that was a 3-pointer. So it's just another layer because of all the social distancing that has come up.
And to Vinny's point, there's even one more layer to that ref mic, is that typically once there's a challenge or a complexity that needs to be deciphered, he now would, in a normal circumstance, would walk over to, say, the announce table and just tell the announcers, okay, this is what happened, or this is why we called this, and this is the decision. Now because the announcers are up high, we've built another push to talk that takes that ref mic that basically he can put himself on my air. So he will make the call, he'll tell the scores table, then he'll walk over and there's another push to talk switch that puts him over the air for all the networks, and it goes into the IFB so the announcers can hear the call. So yeah, the whole ref scenario is pretty complex in terms of the routing and signal.
The main referee is actually wearing 3 lavs in each court, so it's ramped up the channel count as well. So that was partially the reason why when we come into this, and it's it's the normal NBA infrastructure, so they've got piles and piles of mics and things already on the air, and we had to come in and bring in even more than what would normally be done. So we wanted to use the Axient Digital. We've got them actually tuned. We've got them in the G55 block so that I can get all the way up into where just before you get into the first downlink in 600 megahertz. And I've tried to pack as many of my channels in there as I can. In fact, now that we're moving into playoffs, when we get to the finals, both Turner and Espin are going to have broadcasts from the court after the game as they would in a regular season. That's going to be even more channels of wireless coming in. So I'm working with Espin right now, and I'm trying to slot as many of they're coming in with Axient Digitals, and I'm trying to slot as many of them in the duplex gap as I can between the downlink and uplink channels, just because so much of what is on the air here for the regular going on of the sporting events are transmitters that are at 250 milliwatts, tunable in 100 kilohertz steps. So I really needed the agility of the Axient to slot, and as you can see here, like on the scanner, those are my 2 ref mics, and you can see they're fully modulated. So I know that there's not going to be any issues with them when they go and throw that switch, because 90% of the time their talk switch is off, and so you just got to know that when they turn that toggle on, that there it is.
So a question came up related to this. Can scorers and statisticians talk back to the ref, or is it a one-way communication?
Just one way. The refs are not wearing any IFBs. They already have enough paraphernalia on.
There is one exception. The in-arena PA announcer can confirm with the ref, because they're the ones that essentially end up notifying the teams of what's happened, so they can get clarification. But only the in-building PA announcer can talk back.
Yeah, he does have a button on his box that will go to a powered speaker outside the glass, where the ref will come to stand to do a replay review.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very elaborate talkback system, just so that the refs can communicate the way that they normally would have just by walking up.
We should do the count, but that one piece of plexi, I think, caused 7 audio paths back and forth across it by getting in the way.
Yeah.
Nice. So question came in about if you're involved with the player mics.
Firehouse is not, but.
Okay. Do you know what they're using right now for that?
Yeah,
Sure, they're using the Quantum. I'm sorry, Vinny, go ahead.
No,
we're using Quantum QX5, the new with the Axient Digital transmitter.
Okay, cool. So they did move to the digital ones.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. Ah, cool.
Yeah, the more people that are moving to the digital Shure mics, the happier I am as the coordinator.
Awesome. We like to hear that. All right, Vinny, you and Cameron sent us some pictures.
Yep.
I'm going to throw some of them up so you can talk about them, because they're it's always fun to see what y'all have going up. So is this where you are?
That is exactly where I'm standing right now. I'm standing right at that workstation. That's the area actually that Cameron has built. It's his primary home. And you can see the arrows on the floor. It's where people come in and out to pick up their hardware. There's a plexiglass shield, so we're isolated from all departments as they come through. And then also on the table there's a UV lamp. So when people drop off things, whether it's a mic to be checked or a headset that's not working, they put it under the lamp. gets a quick sterilization, and then we can grab it with some gloves and work on fixing it. You know, it's very different now. We're not just walking up to people, hey, I got a problem, and you know, touch their headset or touch their device. Everything's got to be cleaned first, you know, and then worked on from 6 feet away.
All right. So this is that handoff area.
Yep. And again,
Is
Cam,
this
you can talk about it since you did set it up.
Yeah, so this is at the arena about 25 feet away from where the first picture is taken, and it is sort of the DMZ between me and the ESPN and Turner A2s, where every day the ref, you can see the green bags that have ref 2 and ref 1 labeled on them, and inside that darker roll is a red bag of the same size that gets dropped off with the transmitter that the refs will then put their used transmitter in and get dropped off back to us. And so this is sort of the DMZ, the checkpoint Charlie of, I will pick up dirty things, clean them, rebattery them, fax them, and then hand them back off to the A2s, who then very likely also fax them again and then walk them over to the dressing rooms an hour before the game and before the refs show up, come in, the refs show up, open the green bag, take out the mic themselves, do their game, take it off, put it in the red bag, bring it back. And then the A2 at the end of the game picks it up from the ref's dressing room and brings it back, and then I'll clean it the next morning.
Yeah, it's also worth noting you can see the Oklahoma City jersey there. So the jerseys for the player mics will come back, and the A2s will, you know, build the mic transmitter and mic into their setup so that they're ready to go for the game. And it's also worth noting that we're using fully the Shure rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. We get, you know, full monitoring of the battery life, and they're lasting between, you know, up to as many as 8 hours. So we never have to worry that we're handing off a mic that's power locked on, you know, an hour before a game. Even if that game goes into double overtime, we're not going to have to, you know, try to figure out a way to change a battery. So it works out.
Nice. Let's see, you had one more. So this was your wireless.
Yep, that's the configuration we have in each venue, and you know, you can see it looks a little bit like it came together in pieces because it did. Originally, we only had 8 channels and no need for distribution, and then suddenly it's like, well, our refs aren't going to be able to talk to the scorers table. Well, we need more mics for refs, and so those came down, and then we might have anthem singers, so we might need IFBs and we might need in-ears, and so those came down, and there you have it. It's a little bit of a Frankenstein, but that's the that's the full complement, and that's duplicated, like I said, in each of the 3 venues.
Nice.
And Jen, if you don't move off for 1 second, everybody can sort of see the scale of what we're doing on just the audio routing side, but the number of DTs that are tied off to the patch bay right next to it.
Yeah, I cropped the photo so you didn't have to see exactly what Split World looked like in the patch.
Yeah, it's a busy show, Split World, and it has multiple 56 pairs going everywhere, multiple DTs going everywhere.
Yeah, nice. and here at home base, everything has been converted into fiber because it's exclusively, you know, TAC 72s coming in from the broadcast compound.
I haven't been back in here in a while. There's still Nick playing from a couple days ago, I think.
Sorry. We have one question came in. Why are you still using so much analog? Which I'm not entirely sure what that's. I know that's probably PSM, but you have mostly the Axient digital, I think, right?
True. Yeah. I mean, maybe they're just talking about the number of DT12s. I mean, you know, for as much as things have gone digital, there's still an analog failover. So going digital hasn't completely brought us away from analog.
So the clarification was XLR versus analog XLR. Why that's?
Yeah. Well,
there are hydro racks and cow racks just off screen as well from this picture.
Yep,
it's all there.
When it comes down to the number of actual splits that need to happen for these signal paths, it's an analog split makes us most agile, so we can just move a patch, you know, rather than the logistics. I mean, there's a good amount of routing via Dante between venues, between the truck compound and the site, but on site, the original patch is a good old-fashioned analog patch to start with.
All right.
Just to give you a basic 30,000 foot view is that there are two 56 channel analog splitters that they're duplicated in each venue. So as Vinny and Cameron have said, everything is duplicated the same in each venue. So if you go to pair 22 on split A in the arena, that same signal is going to be on the splitter in HP and Visa. So it made setup so much easier, making everything the same in every venue. And then it was up to the networks how you wanted to plumb your Hydra racks. So all those analog splits go into the Hydras and then get shipped out to both ESPN and Turner via fiber.
Cool.
And to add to that, sorry, I thought of this, is that people should consider this for their shows as well. That was almost mostly health related, because in the event that someone gets sick or someone in Dave's truck contracts COVID, he's going to be pulled out of his work day, and his replacement, Art's replacement, my replacement, needs to be able to walk in and instantly know what to do for the show. There's no training up time. There's no ramp. Like, we're all sort of rotating around and need to be able to have a setup that everybody can walk to and knows, kick drums on channel 1, of course, but where are your vocal mics? Where are your IFBs, and et cetera. And so having the analog split allows everybody to always know how each of the 3 venues at the time was set up.
All right, cool. So Justin asks, what is the process to ensure the ref's mic is placed properly? Did you teach them how to mic themselves? Like, how does that work out?
Tossing pennies into the lobby fountain. It's you just have to rely on their expertise, and a lot of these guys have been doing basketball, NBA refereeing for decades, so they know what to do.
And we do have one ace in the hole, and that is our NBA broadcast rep, who kind of eyeballs and double checks both the ref and the 2 coaches, who essentially mic themselves as well. So we do have a set of eyes that can help us.
Yeah, it is challenging because I think there are 80 total reps that they cycle out between all the games, and obviously as many coaches as there are teams. So yeah, it would be wonderful if A2s were allowed to do that miking, but it has been times where it's like, hey, somebody needs to tell them they gotta take it out from under their whistle or take it away from their jacket. It's just you can give a visual look and then you just check in with the truck and say, hey, is it good? And then Dave can say, yeah, whatever, it's good or it's not good. That's kind of been the procedure.
So speaking of whistles, a question came in about the refs. Are the refs using electronic whistles?
Cameron, do you want to talk on the?
They're not. They are still using I can't remember, it's P something whistle, but your classic whistle, and they have got now a cloth bag that goes over all of their whistles to limit the possibility of spittle. So no electronic whistles yet.
But the whistles do trigger a system that will either stay open or closed depending upon if that whistle needs to go to air or where it needs to go just to the floor. That's a whole nother elaborate system that was devised.
Interesting. So Douglas asks, you mentioned the fault tolerance advantage of an analog splitter. Do you have facilities to fix said multi-core cables on site? I'd be thinking it would take a lot more time to fix a multi-core than an Ethernet cable.
Well, those multi-cores are landed and faxed out 2 months ago. They're never unpatched. So if something were to go bad, we do have the tools to fix it, but we've got enough spares built in that we would just go to a different pair in the snake.
Okay. All right. So I think we've firmly moved on to a lot of questions for y'all. So I'm not sure if this is any of your areas, but Douglas asked what factors drove the choice of a Digico SD7 as the front of house console versus another manufacturer. Is that?
Well, I mean, the Digico at front of house is doing a lot of work, and they're almost full, believe it or not. It's really, the front of house mixer on this is sort of less of a mixer and more of like a flow control point. There's so many feeds going in so many directions that the Digico was really pretty much one of the only options that we had. Now, that's not the only console at front of house. There's also there's a Yamaha Dante network as well involved, because there are two separate PAs. There's a PA that goes to the floor for the players, and there's a PA that goes to the house for there are some seats for audience, for players, friends and families, and coaches, friends and families. So there's the Yamaha QL1 at each court, as well as an SD7.
All right. And on the console line, for Dave, what broadcast console are you mixing on, and what's the truck?
I am mixing on NEP SS8, and I have a Calrec Apollo console, and this is one of the first 100% IP-based trucks where every system within the truck is all IP.
Okay. All right. So another routing question. Are any of the wireless microphones being routed locally into the venue PA, or are all the mics going to comms and broadcast?
There is a split going to not the in-house PA. So we provided all the, like I said, it's a PA for the court and a PA for the room, for the audience as general. And yes, those mics, they can go there if need be. They're landed in the console.
Are they regularly like they're landed, but you generally don't hear them?
Well, so nobody hears the ref mics except for the scorer's table, and then if they need to go to air, they bring it to air themselves. Those never get heard. As far as coach and player mics, they're not to be routed anywhere either, unless we're directed to do so. So they're not just hot to the floor or hot to air.
Okay. Continue on the same question. What are the capsules? Are they omni? Are they cardio? Are they directional? What are you using for these?
Am, you want to speak to?
Hey, KSM8s on our two reporter handhelds, and then VT500s for the referees.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just paging through questions. There was one for Dave from Oscar. How many total ambient mics are being used?
Ambient mics, I have 8 total ambient mics. And it's kind of funny, one could ask, well, why do you have 8 ambient mics if there's no people? Well, because of this unique scenario that we're doing with the sweetening and creating this player experience, having those ambient mics to pick that sound up and to make it really realistic and organic, you need those extra ambient mics. And so I think that we've, through a lot of rehearsal and playing around, see what worked, what didn't work, we have a very believable product, I think, that is going over the air.
And where are those set up? Like, where are they located?
We have 2 pair that are hung up in the lighting truss, very high. And then we have another pair that is a little bit lower. And then there's a pair that is actually on the floor.
Okay. And they're the same, each pair, or you're using different things in different places?
There's different mics. There would have been some uniformity if a shipment got delivered on time, but they are different at the moment. There's some KSM 32s and I forget actually what mics are hung in the truss. I don't know if Cameron recalls what those are, but they were some mics that Firehouse had because my mics didn't get here on time before the fly.
Okay, gotcha. For Cameron and Vinny, what is the total wireless channel count in each building?
Oh, I haven't broken it down per building. The way that I've done this coordination is there's green zone wireless, there's yellow zone wireless, and then I coordinated the Major League Soccer, which is right out back into their own zone as well. So the green zone in total, as we stand here right now, is about, stand by, let me open up the file. There's about 70 channels. Now that's not devices because, as I said, I've given everybody the same frequency cross court to keep the total channel count manageable and effectively spaced out. But when we get into finals, that'll probably go up by another almost double. It'll probably go up looking like another 50 channels. So we'll end up somewhere around 120 active channels given time.
Okay, perfect. So another battery question came in. Are you using rechargeable batteries across the board?
Across the board.
Yep, absolutely. That was something that I was very adamant about. I'm like, we're not going to be. The only thing we're not are those watch cell batteries for the push to talks. So we got a shipment of about 1,200 of those so that we could sustain the entire 3-month period. But other than that, we're fully using the Shure rechargeable.
Cool. And I imagine that the comm systems are all rechargeable.
Yes. Yep. The Bolero system's all rechargeable lithium ion.
Okay. So I think this is for Dave. Are they doing 100% clean feed?
If I interpret what clean is, in terms of what the network is doing, using live mics and our normal show, yes, that because we have the SMP delay in place, we're able to mix the show as if we normally would. The big difference is, like I said earlier, some of the RSNs don't have the SMP delays, so that's why we created the safe audio. But on the network side, yes, we are going forward and mixing the show like we normally would.
Okay. So Oscar asks, what's the PA level at as far as the player's overall experience? I don't know if any of you can comment on that.
We're limited to a hard 85 dB across the board in the room. So unless we're directed to push harder, but that's the limit in the room. And that's true for all the NBA special events that we've done, whether it's All-Star or this.
Okay.
Jen, you should get the PA team on.
Yeah, it sounds like
they know a lot more about what they're doing than we do.
I figure.
If you go down the rabbit hole of the PA, it does get very complicated very quick, but I can paint with broad strokes.
And it's very cool. It's cool.
Nice.
Well, I can add to that and just say that it's very manageable compared to a typical NBA arena where it can exceed that 85 dB. So the unique thing about the scenario we're in here is that we are in such a controlled environment. It's almost like doing a live sporting event on a soundstage, that we can control every aspect of it. And so it's been actually a lot of fun pulling things out that you normally wouldn't hear because the PA was so loud. So it's been a great experience and learning, I think, from everyone's perspective.
Cool. Sorry, I was muted for a second there. Let's see. Steven asks, I imagine you guys are putting all the boleros and transmitters into those empty cases. Do those panels get wiped? And are there any specific products you guys are using for touch screens?
I mean, yeah, everything. The boleros are going into the empty UV locker, and then Art's got their Protex medical grade wipes, and yep, and Cameron has Oxavir. We researched which products were going to do the level of sterilization that was needed, but not damage the equipment. You know, we didn't want to use, the NBA has got pallets and pallets of these guys, but that is not what we want to be putting on our hardware. So we ended up with a softer medical grade wipe that we were fortunate enough to get shipments of, even despite the demand.
Cool.
And Jen, just to an addendum to that with the empty cases, the empty cases will douse something in the light, which can sterilize many pathogens, but it's important to remember that it won't clean the devices. So if you have somebody that has a lot of hair product in, or some, something got dirty with food on it, et cetera, it still needs to be cleaned, and then after that can be disinfected, can be sanitized, right? There's two processes that almost happen with every device.
So clean first, go into the UV, and then it goes into the bag.
Yeah, we've got latex gloves, hand sanitizer that we wipe on the gloves, then take a wipe down whatever it is, whether it's a panel or a belt pack or a mic, then hand sanitize again, dispose of the wipe. So it's a separate wipe for each user's device. And production has been good enough to allocate an hour at the end of every show call for us to perform that task.
Okay. All right. So when you communicate between the green and yellow zone, do you tend to use the intercom and PL setup, or do you use cell phones, two ways, etc., because of practicality?
No, the PL system is a global system. Yeah, the Bolero is site-wide coverage, so we're leaning on comms. We have a global communications channel, and that's sort of like the lifeblood of keeping everybody, where they need to be. Art's got a golf cart out there that if he needs to respond to something in the yellow zone, he can hop in there and go take care of what needs taken care of, or and just in keeping uniformity, if we get a request in the arena for one thing to happen, we'll relay that through the comm system to the other two venues and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're adding a pack, or we're adding a channel, or we're moving something, so that everything stays uniform between venues.
All right. We have a follow-up question about flying mics on the truss. Do you know what clamps that you used to take care of that?
Yeah.
Do you know how those were mounted?
They're probably with just a Matthews Mayfair clamp, super clamp, and a gooseneck and a stereo bar, more than likely.
I think Vinny's going to look for some stuff.
Yeah, nothing fancy. It's, off the shelf, super clamp, stereo bar, and a couple of goosenecks.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any handy.
All good. I'm not sure this is in your purview, but Douglas asked, was there a specific higher level decision to only broadcast in 1080p and not 4K?
Yeah, I'm sure there was, but
yeah, this is the audio team.
Yeah, well, typically, Turner and ESPN do not do 4K broadcasts of the regular season, so I don't think that ever was part of the discussion. That it's just not part of their normal mode of operating yet. I'll just say.
Okay. Cool. And this is for Dave. Are you feeding mostly stereo feeds out, or are there also 5.1?
Our main transmission for TNT is 5.1. All the RSN feeds are all stereo.
Okay. Let's see. So Stephen asked, any issues with the UVC on the plastics of the hardware?
So far, no. So far, we'll see. After 3 months straight of every day, we'll certainly put that to the test. I mean, we reached out to Shure. We reached out to all the manufacturers. Say, what do you think's going to happen? And everyone was like, well, no, you know, no, it's too new. But so far, I don't see any signs of cracking or anything like that.
Great. And hopefully one of my colleagues will throw this in the chat. We have been, since this whole thing started, just testing repeatedly different cleaning products to see how and if it would degrade the microphone. So we do have a living and breathing web page right now, where as soon as we have more information about how our products handle different cleaning products, we're throwing it up there. So that's where we are right now, but bookmark that, because as we have more information, we actually have a team focused right now on just testing different cleaning methods to see how it goes. All right, so for Dave, is there much audio follow video, or is it all manual mixing?
It's all manual mixing. We do have some, because we have some virtual signage. There are some GPI triggered delays to delay the audio to match the video because of the virtual shot clock and virtual signage. But everything is manual, other than those triggers for the signage.
Okay. So this is the most unique question we've ever gotten in a webinar. Can you speak about the live chickens and other emotional support animals?
Oh, I think we know who asked this question.
Well, but, you know, no one knew what it was going to be like to come down and spend 3 months inside of this bubble. So we really had to find out what can and cannot be permitted in the bubble. So at the moment, we're being denied any sort of support animals, chickens or otherwise.
Awesome.
There are alligators in the ponds, though.
Yes, there are some gators.
This is still Florida.
Oh, goodness. Awesome. All right, so we had a question about if the PSM 1000 IFB supports ShowLink. I'll just answer that one. That is a no.
But we wish.
And that's good to know that that's something of interest. So Douglas asks, how are you routing the virtual cheering audio from Microsoft Teams into the PA?
Well,
That's another PA guy question.
Yeah, that's we do take a feed from we take multiple feeds from them. They've got several zones of teams and people that are admins handling that signal. So we're taking, I believe, the last time I can't say for certain, but I think it was between 5 and 8 separate stereo feeds per court, just for the team's audio. The audio, the sweetening itself has been a long process, but the NBA was great. They helped us out. I mean, months ago when the project first came up, they gave us access to original audio files from NBA Y2K, from audio from games, and from there, our creative team was able to make layers, hundreds of layers of audio that could be used to keep the cheering sounding unique all the time, so that it wasn't like clear that, oh, that bed just happened and here it is again, because you heard that one guy do the same cheer. So that was something that we had a team of 6 or 8 people working on for several weeks prior to coming down, and then practicing, doing practice games, practicing against old footage, and then eventually getting on site, practicing with scrimmages and feedback from players and coaches and NBA executives. It was a lengthy process. And then that's all fed through the SD7. It goes out to the floor. It's a 10.1 mix that they actually have on the court, so we can control where sounds are coming from the player's perspective. So it simulates them being in an authentic arena, as well as what goes to air, simulating. Hey, Joel for Sean, Global.
Tell somebody's at work.
Yep. People are starting. The players are doing their shoot around.
All right, perfect. We just have a couple more questions. Wynn asked, do you have to worry about loudness management at the mixing stage, or is there some processing that manages loudness outside your control?
It's all downstream. I mean, we obviously have our thresholds that we want to stay within in terms of our transmission levels, but the actual loudness is done at the transmit site, not the truck site.
Okay. So Douglas asks, are you firing the cheering audio cues from the macros on the SD7, or is that done by a separate crew member? Would you?
No, it's not. The SD7 is just the flow through for the signal. We've got a sweetener, 2 sweeteners in each venue. So one of them is for the home team, one of them is for the away team, and they've got. Help me out, Cameron. What software are they running?
QLab.
Thank you.
And they have hundreds of audio files that they can trigger off a Launchpad using QLab. Yeah. And that they essentially are the team by themselves. They have no other responsibilities other than creating this noise. And yeah, we should get the rest of the team in, because it is actually very cool at what they've done on a technical level and on an artistic level too.
The sweetening could be its own webinar for sure. It's pretty deep.
Nice.
I don't want to steal their thunder.
Follow up with you all about making that happen, because that sounds like a lot of fun. All right, one last question from the audience. Do you have a preferred venue out of the 3 courts in the bubble?
Well, they're all very different. All very different. I mean, the arena is closest to what we're used to. It's fairly large compared to Visa, which was like a high school gym.
But it was very intimate.
It is very intimate, and the unique thing about HP is smaller. It has a very unique sound because of the shape of the roof. It's very unique sounding. So yes, all 3 of these sound very different, and it's small, medium, and large is the way it breaks down.
And we've used different PA boxes as well in each venue to count for that.
All right, one final question for all of you that we asked at every webinar. What is your favorite Shure product?
I mean,
846.
Yeah. I like the 81Ms, the micro body packs. I mean, that's a game changer when those came out.
All right.
I'll second that on Vinny.
Also, if I could have 2, I'll say the SM81.
All right. Cameron?
There you go.
I mean, maybe the AD610, maybe the AXT600.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you. This was awesome and really interesting. Thank you, Dave, Art, Cameron, Vinny, for joining us and letting us get a little peek inside of the mysterious bubble setup. For those of you who are tuning in, just a little housekeeping. Tuesdays, the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month, we still have our Tech Talks. That's an hour for you to just join us and just ask whatever question you want. We're just like basically office hours for you, so that's been a lot of fun. So that is on next week. Yeah, is it on next week? What week are we on? I've lost track. So 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. And then next week, our webinar is a wireless workbench deep dive. So if you really want to get into the nitty gritty and like power user workbench situation, that's what we'll be covering next week, Friday. So, all right, again, so registration for that is live, so feel free to register. And again, Dave, Art, Cameron, Vinny, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. To Ben, Bill, Jason, all the guys in the background who have been throwing links in the chat. Thanks for and Nicholas and Mark, who really just get the back end of these webinars right for us. Thank you so much. So happy Friday, everybody. And we'll see you all again soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.